All right, click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute to join this channel or support channel. The various other links will join the Telegram Gap and the whatnot. I was thinking, like, what would it be like without these Hollywood types? What would Hollywood be like without the people who are running Hollywood now, who kind of took the mask off somewhere in the late 70s? I mean, they've always kind of been delightfully, wickedly subversive. But then they just kind of kept taking off more and more of the mask. You go look at them underneath the mask, you're like, oh my God, these are demons, like just demons in in flesh costumes. So this is like, don't let articles like this slip by you. This kind of stuff is more important than a lot of other articles that are going to catch your eye. The latest Star Wars. Yeah, I can't imagine people still following Star Wars. I mean, why would you do that to yourself? When there's hope for redemption, you still follow something like, oh, they're going to turn it around. Like, somebody has a history of, making good and bad films, and they turn it around every once in a while to make something good. It's like, all right, well, it's worth watching. But something like Star Wars or Disney as a whole, no, there's no hope there. Abandon all hope. There's nothing is going to come from Disney unless there's a fundamental restructure, which is probably not going to happen. So no, nothing new is going to come from Disney. Oh, we've got a new show coming out. We're going to do The Mandalorian, or we're going to do Ben Solo, or some. Yeah, but it's going to be woke, isn't it? Oh, well, you don't know that to be true. Yeah, I do, because I'm a fucking idiot. Anyway, so Billy Eichner, not to be confused with Kurt Eichenwald. He is the tentacle prawn guy who, I don't know where does he work for CNN also? He reminds me a lot of Jeremy Tubin, who oddly enough is he was a guy who was on a Zoom call with his pants around his ankles. He was given a break from CNN for like a few months, and then they hired him back. The guy who had his pants around his ankles on a Zoom call with his co-workers. And if the funny thing is, you could almost understand it, if you're 18 or something, the testosterone is insane, and the girls you're on the Zoom call with were just like stunningly model gorgeous. But you look at the people who's on the Zoom call with, buddy, you're gonna have to set your expectations a little bit higher. Anyway, they remind me of each other. They look oddly enough, but he's still at CNN, which kind of tells you where we are in this economic zone, Weimar America. Anyway, so this is a BLT comedy. They say it's a romantic comedy, but how do I say this? Is there a romance in scissoring? And I'm using my hands to make that scissoring gesture, which is how we understand it. And backhole banging. So this is going to be a LGBT lust story. I mean, is there love involved? I don't think so. Meant for a straight, non-backhole banging audience. How does that work? I mean, just how? How do you expect stuff like this to, we're not expecting it to make money. The propaganda is the message. The subversion is the message. Straight people are not really into this stuff. They're not into this stuff at all. It would have to be a hell of a comedy, and it would have to be really light on the BLT stuff. And from what I saw, the preview, it's not. It's just openly prawn. So I hate to even show you this image, because most people look at this image and it's kind of you just want to look away. You want to turn off the screen. You kind of migrate away from it. Because that's just the effect it has. Let me go to something that's a little bit less horrific. That's just kind of the effect it has on a lot of people. You see dudes who fit that sort of mold. It's just a stimulus response. So straight people are not into this stuff. Let me just say, I was going to say most are not into it, but let me say all straight men cannot watch men kiss. It's a biological thing, and you don't have to be the super most macho, straightest person in the world who, I think of macho people as like mustaches in the 70s or something. Whatever the cliche is, most straight guys can't watch other dudes kiss. And you don't have to be, you're so estophobic. No, it has nothing to do with a conscious cognition. It's a subconscious. It's just a stimulus of seeing something it triggers something in your brain. You see it, you're like, it's a biological thing. It triggers an area of the brain. It's just a hard no for straight dudes. So most people don't have a problem with BLT stuff anymore. I don't know if they ever really did as much as Hollywood said they did, but again, Hollywood is a bunch of filthy parasitical demons. But we can't watch two dudes kiss. So anyway, this is degenerate, and if you look around, you're going to see Weimar. This is what it looks like, or at least we're getting, we've pretty well close to. I mean, I don't know what's left. You're already, you're already removing parts off of kids and sterilizing them, and you have children dancing on stage. And I mean, is there anything? I guess you could openly. There's not much further to go before large groups of people decide to disagree very publicly. Anyway, so thank goodness Nina Jankowicz has been replaced by a new minister of truth, Hoffman something, who literally looks like the vampire from some Nosferatu movie from Central Casting. Eventually criticizing this sort of narrative, pushing back on this kind of stuff is going to be probably... It's very problematic, which eventually will translate into consequences. There's nothing good that comes out of a ministry of truth with the powers that be that are currently in power. If you're looking at Biden's cabinet, so what can I say? The future post-Trump super accelerationism into mindless hedonism is here. This is the future of films. Woke is a one-way trip until the civil large-scale disagreement happens, and we build a Hollywood that is not based on these coke-snorting, kitty, diddler, Epstein, Weinstein, where those types of people where they're all these studio execs are flying to Epstein's Island to party. Those are the people who are controlling the narrative. And, you think back to your childhood. Think back to your formative years, like 5 to 15, I think of as like the peak formative years, and the time you spent in front of a TV or nowadays in front of a computer screen watching shows. That narrative has an amazing amount of propaganda power. Between TV and, insane globalist teachers, that's hours a day. When you look at it and you go like, oh, there's no way to fight that. You got to homeschool. You can't homeschool and throw the TV out the friggin' window and internet, like you're going to find a way to limit that. I mean, that stuff is poison. It's just as poison as anything else. I mean, if you can talk people into sterilizing their kids and talk kids into wanting that, then there's fundamentally a problem with whatever source is putting out that kind of information. If you have degenerate abusers who are controlling the narrative, you're going to have subversive art. Subversion used to be kind of a fun word, but like Joey Ramone said, he said something like he wants to rebel, but he got to have something to rebel against. He meant, I think, that you need structure and order. You can't rebel against... You can't rebel within a framework. You have to be within a framework of a working society to have something to kind of push back against. In Liberia or Haiti, there's no rebellion going on. There's no, radical free thinkers and fiercely intellectual artistics in an artistic community going their own way, smoking weed and being fierce intellectuals. They always call themselves intellectuals, and then you read what they wrote, and you're like, facts are not in evidence, friend. Having a big vocabulary doesn't mean you're putting those words in an order that reaches a logical conclusion. It just means you have a big lexicon to choose from. So in Haiti, nobody cares about that kind of stuff because there's no probably very few motorcycle gangs or Devo moped fad clubs like in England in the 50s or something, because they're trying to feed themselves with mud cookies. So being wickedly, delightfully subversive only really works when the society is healthy and flourishing. Being subversive now looks more like globalists actually destroying a nation, which they're doing. They're absolutely doing it. They sort of have taken off the mask and are openly just trying to be evil. So it's not delightfully subversive anymore. It just looks like actual traders who are just trying to destroy something that works, and they're doing it very successfully. I don't know how well this will do. I don't suspect there's an audience for this, but like Netflix cuties, like Amazon, like Hulu, Disney, all these streaming shows are putting out the propaganda, or Blue's Clues with the Cartoon Network, or even tech companies like, the social media tech companies, or even weird things you don't really think of, like Grindr and Tinder, which are dating apps for people. You look at that and you go like, what effect does it have on society, on the nuclear family? What effect? And you go, oh, all this stuff is kind of subversive. I wonder who's pulling the strings on this. Interesting. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, support channel if you wish, and I will see you guys on Odyssey and Bit Chute.